Welcome to this series of videos in which we take a close look at all 9 tiles and all 27 elements of the instruction manual. This is Tile 2, Element 3, Conditioning. Conditioning is the effect the world has on you, your environment has on you as you're growing up. And it comes in all different shapes and sizes, fruits and flavors. There's society's conditioning, there's your cultural conditioning, and there's also family conditioning. And what happens when you're born is these forces mold you into something that can live and function and hopefully succeed in the world. And before I go any further, it's important to say that, as I've said in a previous video, not all the conditioning is bad. Not all the conditioning has to be overturned or released or changed. Much of what's in place is fine, better than fine. It's great. But this is all about seeing clearly what's there and making informed decisions on what to keep, what to let go, what to change. And it all starts with seeing things clearly. To give you an example of what I mean about conditioning, let's take something that's referred to as the broken escalator phenomenon. And it doesn't need much explanation, really. It's what happens to people when they step onto a broken escalator. Now, you can observe this in yourself, but you can also observe it in other people, especially in rush hour, when people are busy and stressed and don't really have time to think about things too much or take things in. A lot of people, and it seems that most people, step off the broken escalator and take the stairs, even though a broken escalator is still effectively stairs. Now, there's a number of reasons why they might do this. They may not want to appear foolish by taking a broken escalator. The steps on an escalator are deeper, and so perhaps a little bit more difficult to negotiate. But there's also, and you notice it yourself when you do it, there's also that feeling of disorientation when you step onto something that you expect to be moving or to begin moving, but doesn't move at all. I'd find it very surprising if you'd spent thousands of hours in your life on an escalator, and yet you've been conditioned by that escalator and by other escalators to expect a certain thing to happen. And when it doesn't happen, it makes you feel a little bit weird inside. So think about those aspects of the world that we talked about at the beginning, society, culture, family, which have an effect on you from the very beginning and are exercising their forces every day, every minute of every day, throughout your entire life. Imagine how powerful that conditioning is. It's going to get to a point very quickly where you don't even realize that you've been conditioned. And again, that's what this work is all about, is seeing your conditioning clearly, seeing your habits and your patterns clearly. And you need to understand also that your family conditioning has generations behind it. Your cultural conditioning has centuries behind it. So there's a weight of momentum as well behind these things. As well as these forces that are acting on us, there's also the decisions that we make based on our interpretation of the world and how we think we can get our needs met. And all of these aspects, habits, patterns, conditioning, and the decisions that we make come together in a concept that we take from transactional analysis called script. And script is really the book that you write about your life, but it's not written at the end. It's not an autobiography. It's written at the very beginning of life. Even before you have language, you're already working on your script. You're already working on your plan of action for the rest of your life, depending on the needs you have and how you think you can best have them met. Now, what happens very often is people devise certain manipulative strategies, and we'll look a little bit more closely at those in Tile 3. But your script is something that once it's written, and it's usually written by the age of 7, believe it or not, you go on refining it a little bit afterwards, but by the age of 7, you pretty much know how you're going to live your life. You have the strategies in place, and they then give way to the habits, the patterns that have all been born out of this conditioning from your family, from society, from your culture. And what you do is you play a certain role in your script. It's basically a screenplay for your life. And you draw other people in to that play, and they have certain roles which allow you to fulfill your role. And the best example there is victims and rescuers. They find each other very, very easily. We talked briefly in the previous video, I think, about my need for being looked after. And that's an aspect of my personal script, my individual script. And I'll come to another aspect later on. But there's also family script and cultural script and society script. And it's important to see all of these things as clearly as you possibly can. Now, one way to see your family script more clearly is if you spent some time away from them because of work or you live somewhere else, and you take, for example, your boyfriend or your girlfriend back to meet your family for the first time, that partner will see aspects of you that they've never seen before. They'll see the brother or the son or the sister or the daughter. They'll watch how you effortlessly fall back into the family dynamic, the family pattern, the family script. And if you ask them afterwards, they'll give you some very important information about who you are outside of the family and who you are when you're in the family. And that will give you some pointers to your family script. And it will also show you that actually you're not who you think you are, which is what this work is really all about. Because if you behave differently when you're with your family than you do when you're not with your family, who are you? Are you somebody who demonstrates a family script or not? Can you change your individual script? Yes, you can. And I'll give you an example. Another aspect of my individual script is I always used to just move on from things every 3 or 4 years. With relationships, it was every 2 years, but I was gone within 4. And when I finished my training, I moved back to Germany and I got a job, and my boss said to me, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?" And my response was, to be honest, I'll be glad if I'm still here, because normally I'm gone after 4. And that's exactly what happened to me. After about 4 years, I felt as though I needed to move on. I felt the familiar feelings of itchy feet and wanting to look at other jobs or other cities or even other countries. Move, keep moving, fresh experience, that kind of thing. But I'd resolved to stay put, whatever happened. So that's what I did. I kept the voice quiet by looking at job adverts sometimes, but I was in for the long haul. I didn't know how long it was going to take. Fortunately, it only lasted for about 4 months. But throughout that 4 months, I felt ill at ease. I felt there's an uneasiness about me. I wasn't relaxed. I wasn't comfortable. But after 4 months, it passed. And I felt as though my script had changed somehow, that I'd made quite a breakthrough. And interestingly, a month after that, that was when I met her. And for me, those two aspects are interlinked. They're so interwoven. This is the main lesson that I took from that. Not only can you change your script, but when you make changes in that script, it sends ripples throughout the rest of your script, throughout the rest of who you think you are. It gives you a sense of empowerment, control, although control is perhaps a bit of a strong word here. It gives you a sense of discovery, a sense of evolution, a sense of progress, a sense that there's something to be discovered that's way beyond what you thought was there. One final point that I want to make is that it's very tempting when you start to see these things to get frustrated or annoyed that things happened in certain ways that led you down certain paths, that you were powerless, and that if things had been different, then you'd be different and things would be easier and life, blah, blah, blah. When you feel that, it's very easy to want to point the finger at somebody, and the best person or the best people to point to are your parents very often, or the caregivers, the people who were heavily involved in your upbringing. But you need to remember that they were just doing their best given their conditioning and their script and their upbringing. So if you're going to blame anybody, you need to blame their parents. But by the same logic, you can't do that either. So how far back can you go? There's no point. There's nobody to blame. There's only responsibility to be taken for your life, your script, your future, for where you are now. It can be useful to look into our past to explain where we are now. And if you want to understand more about who you are, then look at your family, look at the culture that you were born into, look at the world that you live in. All these forces have shaped you, but that's not the end of the road. There's still an awful lot that you can do. There are decisions, just the kind of decisions that you made when you were 2, 3, 4, 5 regarding your script that you can make now, that you can remake, new ones, better ones. And we'll look at that in tile 3. For now, like I said in the other videos, all you need to do is see things clearly, write stuff down, become more aware, observe, reflect. And then in tile 3, we'll look at what you can do with it. If you've liked this video, be sure to check out the other videos in tile 2. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, 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 bye. Go, 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 go. There's other stuff to watch.